So hey everyone, I'm today with Carol, and Carol is an amazing human being doing great work for a lot of other great human beings. So tell us your story, Carol. Where were you born? What kind of family was it? How was it to grow up? Walk us through it.
I was born in a city of Nazareth, northern Palestine, Israel, and I was raised by a Catholic family and studied in a Catholic French school, Saint Joseph, for almost 18 years. And I had a family of 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, who still live in Nazareth, Haifa, and Germany. And I moved when I was 18 to Jerusalem. This is where I got aware of more of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the sociological, psychological aspects of it, as well as the national Palestinian tragedy, which we did not study back in our school system, in our education system, because it's not really so much permitted in our education system to learn about our heritage and our Palestinian history in the Israeli education system. So mostly it was very much an eye-opener to get mingled in Jerusalem with the East and West Side and see things as they are. My first degree was in sociology and anthropology in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and French literature.
When you were growing up, did you make any Jewish friends or Muslim friends, or only?
Well, yeah, Muslim friends, yeah, of course. The city of Nazareth is an Arab city. It's the biggest Arab city in Israel. So.
And that's where the Jesus was.
Right. That's the Jesus story is there. I was very close to the Annunciation Church, where the Virgin Mary was announced that she will have a child, and so on. And the nuns were taking us almost every other day to pray there. So that cathedral, which is very famous in the world, and it's really a very beautiful cathedral. I was raised there. I was inside it almost every other day, and it's a beautiful spiritual place to be at. So, but in that city there are Muslims and Christians living together, side by side.
And they all speak Arabic.
Yeah, of course, we all speak Arabic as Palestinians. We have Israeli citizenship, but that's just the legal work, the formal paperwork that, but we are living as a minority. We are around 20% of the population. And
how much is Christian and how much is Muslim?
Well, there is not much Palestinian Christians anymore. There's less than 1.5% in all Palestine, Israel. So there isn't much. Most of the people have been either expelled or immigrated or just left. In 48, before the establishment of Israel, before the Nakba, it was, I'm not sure if exactly of the statistics, but it was much more Christians than today, much more. I would dare to say it was 50-60% in Nazareth, at least, as my mom and grandma would say. That we always lived side by side together, even with Jewish in Palestine, historical Palestine 48. We always lived together fine. We never had problems of religion before. That was never an issue. So yes, in my school, I had, the majority were Muslim students, Muslim kids. And
Catholic school?
Yeah. Most of the private schools in the north or northern historical Palestine, Israel today, is actually Christian schools that are mixed, Muslims and Christians. That was never an issue. And they're only called private schools because they're run by nuns, and they're private because we pay money. They're not public. But they do have both the Christian and the Muslim, and that was never an issue because the Muslims will learn Islam during the time where the Christians learn Christianity at the same time, in the same school.
In a Catholic school.
Yeah, in Catholic or non-Catholic. Yeah, that's for me an example of how you can. I'm telling you, in Palestine, that's never been an issue. It started to be an issue only in the past few years when there is a divide and rule. What divide and rule means is when somebody from outside comes and say, you know what, these are better for us than these, so let's recruit Christians for the army or something like that. Then you create the enemy inside a nation that has been connected together. Or when same, I mean, you have that almost in every conflict or in everywhere in the world where you have division among the same nation, or the same community where they think differently about how to resolve the conflict. So some people think we need to mingle with the majority, we need to be like them, we need to assimilate and not so much integrate, but assimilate, which means forget about our language, forget about heritage, forget about who we are and what we are, and just be like them. And there are like Arabs like that, but the majority of Arabs and Palestinians inside the Green Light Israel and in Palestine don't think like that. They think, no, Palestine still exists, not just in our heart, but on the ground, and we need to be there for each other, and we need to keep our language, and we need to keep our lands, and we do not need to give up, and we need to assimilate. So, and I think that voice is still the majority of the people. I want to believe so.
So you're now grown up, you did psychology and anthropology?
Sociology and anthropology, and my master's was in NGO administration and public policy. And then
And you studied which university?
That in Jerusalem was the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. It's one of the great schools, one of the great universities I've been in, great mentors.
By that time you probably have some Jewish friends now?
I always had Jewish friends. I mean, since the day I moved to Jerusalem, my life changed.
Oh, okay.
My life changed, and
so Nazareth was not many Jewish people, but when you
there
came
were
to
not
Jerusalem,
none.
oh, okay.
None. I never knew Israelis. I never knew Jewish until I moved to Jerusalem. I mean, that was an eye opener that there's this and then there's that, and there's others, and then that the colors are there are a lot of colors, not just black and white. So I started learning about working with groups in conflict, learning about facilitation skills, learning about dialogue, learning about how to reach to the other side, learning negotiation skills, all sorts of stuff in other schools, not in the Hebrew University, in other schools. Then I started working with Israelis and Palestinians since right after Oslo, right in '94.
What happened in Oslo?
What happened in Oslo? They agreed to talk. They agreed to recognize each other as nations. They agreed to
As different countries.
As different. Not so much, not really. I wish that happened. I think the biggest failure in Oslo is that Israel never committed to have a Palestinian country.
Even now?
Well, there were a lot of words about having two states side by side, but honestly, there were no commitments whatsoever. There were no mechanism in order to kind of ensure that will happen. Oslo was a way to let the people, to first of all, to tell the Palestinians to calm down, because it was the first intifada that started in '89 and ended right after Oslo. And it was actually to tell the people, calm down, we will get you what you want, just stay in there, stay tuned. We will get you a good agreement. If we negotiate with the other side, we will get there. And this have raised the hopes of both sides to really to the sky. And
for those who don't know intifada, for those who don't know, what is an intifada?
Intifada, what is intifada? Oh, intifada is It's the popular resistance revolution that actually was mostly done by strikes, demonstrations, as well as throwing stones.
In Palestine.
Throwing stones in East Jerusalem, in the West Bank, and in Gaza. And that started from 89 to 92 or something like that. So that was the first intifada, which actually many people talk about it today as the historical intifada that brought Israelis to the table, that made...
Before that, they were not really
No,
started at all.
no. That, before that there were a lot of chaos, but it was very much street thing. It was not steered by leaders. It was not. No one were telling the people what to do. It was like the human rights movement. It was done by the people, for the people, and it's different today. I don't think we will have such an intifada today because of the weapons issues, because of the interests issues, because of the politics, because of people are just not thinking they're going to get anything after waiting for almost 25 years now.
Let's go back to your life.
Yeah.
So you were now studying you did your master's?
I did my master's. I finished it in 2000, which is 16 years ago. So I worked with lots of civil society organizations while the really good old time, that's how we call it. We were still hopeful that civil society and people-to-people work, which is getting people with people from both sides together, would prepare the ground for the real peace to happen. That the peace is not with the leaders, but with the people. That's why they're called people-to-people. So we've worked with a lot of grassroots work with education, changing curriculums, with opinion makers, media professionals, women, businesses, youth, high schoolers. I mean, I can't remember how much work has been done during these years, and I had my kind of summary of the tips that I would take from the field in 2011 when I had that TED Talk about moving beyond the dialogue of words, because we were fed up of words. We were fed up of sitting on the table, promising stuff to each other and talking, and then nothing happens. And then the people in control, or the majority, won't feel that gap between the dialogue and the action. Who feels it is the person who is living under horrible situation where they are waiting every day to be changed. If it's checkpoints, if it's come see how we live, and then maybe you can do something for, advocate for us, do something in your government, do something through your civil society organization in order to change the situation. So there were a lot of things that I've said in that to talk about moving beyond the dialogue of actions, and mostly it's about really moving from your comfort zone, moving from your chair to that place where you don't know. You really don't know, and you might be fearful. You might be fearful to go to a refugee camp, or to go to a Palestinian town, or to cross the checkpoint as an Israeli, and so on. So because there's also this discourse of fear. There's always they tell you all the time, don't, and there's so big signs. You should not cross the line because your life is at threat. Well, I personally took a lot of Israelis in, and their life was changed because of it. So, and many other friends as well. So, involving the media is other tip. Involving the media in human stories, in positive stories as well, not just suffering stories, showing the good side of each side. So, having friends from the Israeli side has never been a problem. The problem would be is when times of crisis comes, when you have people killed in the street, or house demolished, or people not being able to go to the hospital, and you're trying to help them. So you turn out to your friends who can be influential somehow, and they don't help. Then you don't call them friends anymore, right? even if it's not for you, it's for people you know, you care about. So this idea of friendship is also an illusion. Like, at least for me, there are a lot of good people on both sides that are doing their best to help each other. And I know that I have lots of stories of people who help each other. But at some level, I think both sides, the Israelis and the Palestinians, got tired. They really got tired. They got tired of stories of humiliation of Palestinians. The Palestinians get tired of stories of Israelis seeing themselves as victims. Israelis are fed up from hearing stories of checkpoints and of death and of kids dying in Gaza, and Israelis don't want to see it. They're living comfortably. They're living good. Why should they care? There is the majority, I can say, they're living well. Why should they care, right? And on the Palestinian side, there are this wave of immigration. Some people think, we don't want our kids to suffer the same consequences as our neighbors or as our friends or as people in our neighborhood who were burned alive, like Muhammad Abu Khadir in East Jerusalem last year, or other, others who've been taken to prison. Like in the past year, only we had 170 kids from the age of 12 to 15. Palestinians were taken to jail for throwing. I don't know. It's just it's not a very healthy environment to raise up kids, to raise up a family right now. And some people hang in there for a long time, and they just don't have an option like my husband did when he decided that it's time to move. So my husband
moved from where?
To move from Palestine. My husband's we moved from Palestine not because we lost hope, not because we don't think we can make a change, but because my husband personally suffered a big problem with this issue of residency. So he's Palestinian, had Palestinian citizenship, and I'm Palestinian that have Israeli citizenship, right? So when we married in '98, the Ministry of Interior in Israel said, okay, this is a process of family unification, which will take 4.5 years, after which he will take the permanent residency, like in every country, right? So we followed the rules. We were submitting our papers every year, doing everything they ask us for, investigation almost every other month. It was a very humiliating process, but it doesn't matter. We were thinking in 2002 we will finish from it. That means even his travel was always on laissez-passer, which is only for 10 months, that needs to be renewed, that get no visa almost anywhere to go to. So bottom line, in 2002, the law changed. There's no family unifications anymore, there's no upgrade. So if you have temporary residency, you don't go to the permanent residency, you stay there. So that killed us. Like, we can't stay on temporary. In temporary, you can't buy a house, you can't buy a car, you can't even have a bank account. You can have nothing. And my husband was devastated. Like, I can't live like this. And then we went to the High Court in Israel, and we did everything. And I wrote this in my article. Was a very good read on New York Times, called "So Long Israel and Thanks for Nothing." We had real battle for long years, and nothing came out of it. Just a lot of spending of money and nerves. And so in 2005, it was clear for us that nothing's gonna change, and we're gonna have to live with our fate, which means stay unstable. Sometimes he has temporary residency, which means he can live with me, and sometimes he doesn't have it, so he has to go back to Ramallah. So it was crazy life.
He's a Christian from
Yeah,
Ramallah.
he's Christian from Ramallah. Yeah. So So in 2000, he works in loan guarantees for businesses in the West Bank, and so they asked him to come to DC to establish the HQ of the operations here, so that they would expand to other countries. So he said to me, you know what, it's time for us to leave. And I can't stand in this situation where I cannot make a change in my life and in our future and the future of the kids. And it was a little bit of the beginning of the deterioration of things as you see them now. So we left. So we just, it was very, very, very hard decision for me. Because I spent over 20 years there working on this conflict, almost on every level you can think about. And I had all my friends, network, social life, family.
You were living in Jerusalem?
Yeah.
And he was in Gamalon?
No, he was living with me in Jerusalem. He was living with me in Jerusalem. But again, it's that sometimes he has it, sometimes he doesn't have it. So when he doesn't have it, he's stopped and he's returned in an army car to I mean, it's very humiliating to be treated like this when you're living over 15 years in this. It's 15 years of temporary life. That's how it was. Then he said, we can't do this anymore.